Dave Weigel joins us, political reporter for Semafor, Ahmed Baba, new father, columnist for The Independent, and founder of AhmedBaba.news. Ron Insana back with us, MS Now business analyst and publisher of the must-read Message of the Markets on Substack. And Abby Livingston is here, congressional correspondent for Puck News. Mr. Weigel, how much of a problem, right, on a scale of 1 to 10, is this war for Republicans in the midterms, and not just from a foreign policy, not just from a national security perspective, but also from an economic perspective?
Well, be conservative and say it's a 9, because it is at one level, and you guys are going to get into this, that it makes impossible the economic promises the president made. And he has the ability at least, to go and give speeches and pretend that he's hitting all the marks that he promised, that we're in a golden age and things are better than ever. This obviously counteracts that. Anyone who's paying for anything fixes in their mind that, oh, we're still at war with Iran. This must be the reason why these prices are out there. The president can move on from crises. The voters can't. The other level of this is that it has been divisive for the Republican Party. Now, Republicans have spent a couple weeks exploiting the divisions between Democrats on Israel. That, I think, has been a smart strategy. That is playing out organically. They're exploiting it. Their own base is following the president most places, but unhappy about the war in Iran. And a lot of their strategy this year is going to be, Republican strategy, exciting as much of the Trump vote in 2024 as possible. They're going to have that convention in Dallas, which has not happened in decades. To do that, they do have a giant chunk of their base. We're just not paying as much attention to it right now because the Democrats, a giant section of their base that is frustrated about this war in Iran, that is not answering the phone calls, not going to go back, knock on doors. So in both ways, economic ways, political ways, it hurts the president's mission of saving the Congress.
What's your thought, Ahmed?
I mean, when it comes to this war, if only Trump had listened to all the advice coming from not only his own advisors, but the pundit class, the media, we were all warning this war was going to be...
Forget us. How about experts? Yeah. How about NATO allies?
Exactly.
I'm not asking you to listen to a pundit. I'm asking you to listen to your own intelligence.
Exactly. When it comes to the economy, Americans are really clearly seeing the connecting the dots. There's a through line between the costs that the Iran war has cost the U.S. taxpayer, from the $37.5 billion to upper estimates of up to $100 billion. There's a direct through line from that to what was not spent on renewing the Affordable Care Act enhanced subsidies, right? They can see that money's being spent in this war and not being spent to improve their affordability crisis, right? And then they also see, while Trump's making these reckless moves, they're seeing the gas pump. They don't need to look at the headlines to see. You can see a barometer. If you're not even checking the news, you can look at the gas prices up to $4. Oh, Trump did something else in Iran, right? So now we're in the situation where the U.S. Household, per household, Moody Analytics, between, actually their analysis says $1,100 since this war has started. Meanwhile, there's the Fed finding that 37% of Americans don't have $400 in emergency funds. So you connect all this together, and you have a president where he said he doesn't think about the costs that are being borne by the American people, and you can see that in his actions, and you can see that in how this war is playing out.
Ron, you see it. Banks could be making money over fist because of their trading businesses, because they're making money every single time someone transacts.
Right.
They're making money on the investment banking side because we're in an M&A bonanza with little to no regulation.
And a huge IPO in SpaceX.
But actually understanding the American consumer, understanding how we're racking up credit card debt, what our financial situations are, it paints a very different picture.
Oh, yeah. Well, credit card debt delinquencies are at levels associated with recessions. Mortgage delinquencies, levels associated with recessions. Student loan delinquencies at a record. So the people who cannot afford, or who are middle income and lower income, this is all a massive regressive tax on that component of the economy. And they're struggling on a day-to-day basis. And Stephanie, we've talked about this once, I think, before, was when you're forced to start making decisions between filling up your gas tank and buying groceries, that's when the political problem really begins to set in, is because it's not what you're accustomed to. You usually can do both. And now with tariffs, with the war, with the increase in the price of energy, groceries being expensive, education, insurance, all these things.
And we're not even talking about, are you going to go on summer vacation? That's
Correct.
Not even in the equation. Okay, but how about Minda from Cleveland, Ohio, is asking a really good question to Democrats here. She writes, I'm very concerned that Democrats are not focused on telling the American people what will actually change for them if they win the midterms. I'm worried they have become too cocky and they feel like they have it wrapped up. Why aren't they talking to us? We need to hear what to expect from them rather than just point to all that Trump is doing wrong.
I think one of the biggest developments this summer with Democratic politics is all of this infighting in these primaries, Maine, Michigan. And so they seem much more interested in fighting each other than laying out their case for the midterms. There's still time. Generally, Labor Day is when you start making that case. But this is a very, I think it's becoming a very big distraction for a lot of Democrats.
Okay, but here's the thing. Republicans have plenty of cash going into these midterms, more than $1 billion, but they're not spending it yet. What does that say to you, Dave?
They have a strategy. So this, not everything is leaked to us, which is near irritating if you're a reporter. But Democrats know that this is over the hill, that they are raising money individually for their candidates. And this has been another problem where Democratic divisions are spilling out in everything. Their candidates are raising money. Where they get attention, they are able to break records out for Republicans. The party itself is not raising money. It's raising some. It's being outraged by Republicans because part of the argument Democrats are making this cycle is that, yes, we've made a bunch of mistakes. We're running candidates who are independent from our leadership. The Republican argument is we are the MAGA party, give money to the MAGA PAC, the president's PAC, give money to the RNC. They also have nobody inside the party complaining about where the money's coming from. Democrats have this endlessly. If you look at Democratic infighting, Abdul El-Sayed, Michigan Today, is talking about the spending against him for Haley Stevens. No one in the Republican Party cares. There's not a story saying, look at this shady donor who lives in Florida who gave $10 million to the PAC. They say thank you. So Republicans are going to have this money to spend.
Can I get that guy's phone number or at least his WhatsApp or Signal if I don't want it recorded? Yeah. But what does one do with that, right? It is hugely popular, Abby, among the American people when a candidate says, let's get big corporate dollars. I don't want that kind of money in these campaigns. People feel that. But then you have to get practical. Citizens United was signed 16 years ago. Supreme Court just made it easier for big dark dollars to go into campaigns. So how do you balance the two, where it's wildly popular to say to the American people, we don't want this big money in politics, when that's what the current situation is? And without those big checks, you are not going to run a campaign with those big dollars. And that's not to say that the Bernie Sanders approach doesn't work, but it works for extraordinary candidates like a Bernie Sanders or a Mamdani.
So the Supreme Court ruling was a big deal because usually Democrats can make up this money later in the fall. This is their big fundraising season where Republicans tend to raise early in this cycle. And then on top of that, and I'm going to give you full credit, I thought Texas was going to turn into this huge money pit. And you've said on air that this money would come in for Republicans, and it has come in big. So as Democrats expand their map, part of the strategy is not just attempting to win Nebraska. It's about pulling Republican money out of a competitive state in Nebraska.
You got to think about all of the super rich people from New York and California and other states that moved to Texas for the tax advantage because it was going to be so much cheaper. They didn't want to leave Beverly Hills to live in Dallas. They did it for the tax reasons, and they don't want to lose that. So they're happy to write a giant check to a Texas candidate that they don't know, they don't like, to protect their tax-saving status.
Absolutely. So it comes down to, do Democrats have enough? And also, is the American public going to buy what Republicans are selling? And that is the big question this fall.
That's the key right there. I mean, Republicans can spend as much money as they want, but what message are they going to push? Are they going to be able to convince the American people? Are they going to be able to convince the American people that their lived experience is not their lived experience? Are they going to be able to disentangle this Iran war with their personal circumstances? Are they going to be able to disentangle the grift from Trump? He is the personification of the K-shaped economy that you talk about daily. When he's sitting here grifting personally while raising prices. And then now we've got this tariff situation where if you were to ask ChatGPT or Claude, create me a policy that is designed to raise prices, I'm not sure it'd be too different than what Donald is doing right now. So when it comes to this spending, we see organic messaging coming from Democrats that I think is reaching voters potentially more than any paid ad could.
Yeah, but the problem is that the Democrats are doing what Donald Trump is doing in Iran, fighting the wrong war, right? I mean, Donald Trump has no idea what war he is fighting in Iran, right? I mean, the strategy shifts on a day-to-day basis. He doesn't know who he's up against. He doesn't know what to do. And the Democrats are fighting amongst themselves instead of fighting against the Republicans. They don't even know who the enemy is at this point in the way in which they're approaching their strategy. And it's taking away from that messaging that they should ultimately be focused on, which is not just going after Donald Trump, but, again, addressing the lived experience of Americans and providing solutions, actual solutions to the problems that they are facing. And it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be problematic for them in the House. I think they'll still win the House. But this is problematic for them in the Senate, where they have a shot at taking it, but they're getting into these philosophical arguments that do not win political points with the American people.
Dave, you talk about this in your latest Semaphore piece, and I love the way you frame it, because you say Democrats are crashing their own party.
Yes, I was talking a little bit about that at the top of the conversation, that the Democrats' argument for the midterms is not and it's the end of July. This is historically a time when Democrats have rolled out their agenda. Hakeem Jeffries is going to be in Pennsylvania this weekend campaigning. But look at all the Senate candidates who are saying they're not going to vote for Chuck Schumer as leader. Look at the House candidates in competitive races who say they're not going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries. That's a problem down the line for who their leadership is. Very minor problem. And in the moment, it is saying we are a coalition that wants to stop what Trump is doing, have accountability for Trump. We are much less confident in saying here is our entire agenda that we are comfortable running on from Idaho to Michigan to Massachusetts. There has been an agreement that they do not have one. Whereas with the exception of Susan Collins in Maine, who's given a lot of grace to not run on everything Trump is doing, Republicans are running on, we achieved this in Congress, Democrats would have raised your taxes by not extending the Trump tax cuts, and we're going to make this a referendum election on, we're trying our best, and Democrats are going to wreck it. And their model here is actually the Joe Biden 2022 midterm, where Democrats had some problems. They were not, but they had a coherent, the other party is so incompetent and crazy that you don't want to mess this up by electing them. I think they had a much better argument to make, given how obsessed those candidates were with overturning the 2020 election, an issue that did not matter to most people. But that is the model here of just saying the other party is not ready to come back and take power yet. That's what they're going to do. And then it'll be buffeted by all of these, buffered, I should say, by all of these ads, $1 billion of ads coming in September, October, making that argument.